Just when you thought the story couldn't get any crazier, the Shock go ahead and do so. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel yet again here today, and to another Overwatch League news video. ANS is returning to the San Francisco Shock. The Shock keep on playing with our feelings, man. This is too much. Between the losing in the tournament, Striker retiring, and now this, I just can't handle it. This is too much for my pea-brain to handle. I could have sworn this guy went to go play Valorant. What on earth happened? I'm so confused. My man is hopping games like no tomorrow. He wasn't even gone from the league for a year, and here he is again. Like, I just can't wrap my head around this. I just find it so interesting that he was willing to come back so soon when he made it sound like he needed a substantial amount of time off before he was considering a return. But I guess between the Shock really needing a new DPS player and him having the motivation to come back, they made this work. I guess it kind of makes sense in a way because I'm pretty sure he was streaming some Overwatch recently. He's kind of getting back into the grind, I guess. But the last major news we had heard of him, I felt like, was when he was going to T1 for Valorant. It's funny how half a year of time can change things so significantly in a professional esports league like this. The Shock have put themselves and their fans on this massive roller coaster of sorts. At the start of the May Melee, they do alright, you know, they have a good qualifier, but then immediately the mood starts to change when they choke to the Dallas Fuel. I mean, if you even call it a choke, it's more like they just got rolled in the knockouts, but then everything seems good again, right? In the June Joust, they go 4-0, but then they choke again, so they're going up, down, Striker retires, they're down really bad, and now ANS is here to lift everybody's spirits up. I would say this is probably the biggest emotional roller coaster the Shock have been on since Season 2. Consistency was something this franchise had down to a science, both with their success and with keeping their fan base happy, so this is definitely a change that Shock fans and normal fans alike are not used to. Regardless of how crazy things are getting, overall this is a nice pickup for the Shock. I think that kind of goes without saying because of what this guy did in Season 3. He was arguably the best hit scan in the game. It doesn't necessarily solve all of their problems, which we'll talk about a bit later, but ANS still is a very explosive playmaker who is going to help pick up for what Striker kind of left behind, if you will. Striker was always the guy to get a big pick in the clutch or get the first pick in a team fight for that matter, or just play really well when the stakes are at their highest, but ANS can do that too. We already saw that firsthand. So basically, you trade one superstar playmaker for another. Not a bad trade-off when considering that things were looking kind of grim when Striker initially announced his retirement just a couple of hours ago. A pickup of this magnitude helps calm the storm, or at least stabilize the situation to the point where it was like before Striker left during the May Melee and the June Joust, where the Shock were just trying to figure out how to win in the clutch. It's kind of weird considering they have Glister, but I mean, again, ANS, if he wants to come back, you take him. I don't think it's up for debate. Glister is absurdly talented, but ANS is simply on a different level. He covers your Widow, your Ashe, your McCree. Anything you need, he will play at the top level. I mean, the highest level possible. He is elite. Glister has shown when given the opportunity that he can dominate a game as well, but clearly, based off of what we've seen this season, the Shock really have not liked playing him all that much. Glister was basically a map specialist. He only played on like Junkertown, that one time on Dorado, and then that time on Havana against the Outlaws as well. He's been a no-show for the most part. Now, there can be a multitude of reasons why this is the case. Maybe Glister hasn't been performing up to his potential, or he hasn't been playing as well as Krusty would have liked him to, or perhaps he just doesn't help the team play better. Maybe they're better off with him on the bench. But something else to think about is that they probably want to move Glister over to Tracer or ANS. Most likely Glister in my opinion, because we've already seen him play Tracer this year. It would make sense to do something like this, where you can still have somebody play hitscan at an elite level, but you also have a decent Tracer on hand. Glister is no Striker, but he can still be solid on this role, especially if he grinds it out. Glister used to play flanker heroes quite a bit before he joined the Overwatch League, so it might not be a bad fit at all. The plan on paper seems pretty simple as to what they can do with this DPS rotation of theirs. You have Glister play Tracer and other flanker heroes, you have Nero play the projectile role, and then ANS takes care of all of your general hit scan needs, plus any of your long-range sniper needs. There you go. I wouldn't necessarily say problem solved until we see it in action, but that's a good plan. It's better than what they had before this ANS announcement came out. I like that there's a plan. It gives me hope for the Shock that they don't have to go into panic mode just yet, and maybe there is a chance they can figure things out before it's too late. But as I was alluding to earlier, this might not necessarily be a full solution to the Shock's overall problems that they're facing this year. You essentially traded out one amazing playmaker for another, so you're still left with this issue of trying to topple the Fuel and these other teams in the knockout rounds. Plus, we still don't know what's going to happen for sure with the Tracer role and just how good this team will be without Striker in the clutch. I have faith in Glister and Nero. I think they're both very talented players with extremely high potential, but it's not easy to fill in the shoes left behind by somebody of Striker's caliber. If they figure it out, and the Shock very well might just because they are the San Francisco Shock, then things should be fine, and if anything, they might be able to stabilize and improve moving forward. Whether the Shock play better as a team, or they stay around the same, or get worse, whatever it may be, I'm expecting ANS to do very well individually. His playmaking potential is so incredibly high, plus he's been taking some time off from playing this game professionally, so as a result, he'll be coming in with a fresh mindset, which means that he'll kind of offer a perspective that the rest of the guys on this team might not be able to see. They've been grinding this year. It's been an exhausting process. It's been frustrating with all of the losses that they're not used to getting, so maybe ANS can be their hero and help turn things around. ANS single-handedly by himself might be able to help the Shock get to a higher level. It's crazy to think about, but sometimes that's all you really need is a fresh mindset and a different approach, or somebody to come in and save you with some inspiring play. Some people might argue that ANS is going to throw off the mojo of this DPS a little bit and they might not get along, but I personally am not all that concerned over something like this. Maybe Glister will feel a little bit less confident in himself just because the Shock literally brought on ANS to do exactly what he was brought on this team to do during the preseason, but like I said, I think there's other ways that Glister can still be effective and gain confidence as a player. He can grind the Tracer and other flanker heroes, but also, if the situation calls for it, him and ANS can cooperate together on sniper characters. Could you imagine one of them on Widow and like the other on Hanzo or Ashe? That's disgustingly good. That is practically unstoppable, as they're arguably two of the best counter snipers in the game. Or maybe instead of Glister, you want Nero on something like the Tracer, for example. He grinded that character back on the charge during Season 3. Anything is possible. I feel like ANS being brought on this team opens up a ton of options. It ultimately comes down to how well this team could do in like a situation where Striker was really good in the past for them, like on Reaper, or on Tracer, or on Hanzo. If they can fill out those voids, then there's no reason why the Shock couldn't be competitive. This is a very interesting turn of events. I'm super surprised. I'm sure a bunch of you are as well, but hey, good for the Shock. You lose Striker, but you bring back an old fan favorite, so it's not all that bad. I'm not sure how the rest of you feel out there who aren't Shock fans, but I really missed ANS. He was one of my personal favorites to watch because of how amazing he was on that hit scan role. He was so skilled, and I was really feeling bad when he announced his retirement because he essentially became a one-season wonder. We were all wondering if he would ever come back one day, so this is great. We get to see him back at least for another couple of months. What happens after that, I have no clue, but while he's here, we have to enjoy it. And with that said, that's going to wrap up this news video. What do you guys think of ANS rejoining the San Francisco Shock and coming out of retirement? And do you think that he's going to be the replacement they need for Striker, or will they continue to struggle? Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe if you want to keep up to date with all things Overwatch League news related. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.